Hello, and thank you again for choosing this session. The first video was an introduction. In this video, I want to talk about what the students need from us as teachers in order to successfully use the learning strategies. Most of this information comes from SRSD teaching strategies, which is self-regulated strategy development. And this is an effective research-based model that teachers can use to help their students learn strategies and then to improve their academic performance. There's a combination of academic strategy instruction and self-regulation instruction. SRSD helps students to analyze a problem, organize information, and regulate their behavior. In doing so, they are more likely to become independent learners, and this comes from the IRIS Center for Training Enhancement, which will be the tutorial that comes next after this video. First, I want to talk about strategy instruction. This is important for teachers to know so that we can help identify the different types of learning strategies there are as we introduce them to our students. There are 5 that I have listed. There's help seeking, self-observations, self-questioning, taking organized notes, and also documenting and evaluating learning behaviors. The posters that Mrs. Faust and I have been using during this session, I've separated into the 5 different categories. The help-seeking strategies, the self-observation strategies, the self-questioning strategies, the organized notes strategies, and then the document and evaluate learning behavior strategies. This is not an extensive list of all the learning strategies. As I did research, these are the ones that I found. And I'm sure as you begin researching on your own and growing in the idea of learning strategies, that you may find more, which will be great. But definitely putting them into categories to be able to better explain to the students how to use the strategy is going to be important. Why is it important? Well, we absolutely need to think through the learning strategy before we present it to our class. So we want to be able to clearly describe the learning strategy, when or why it might be useful, and identify the critical steps to use the strategy. SRSD prides itself in going through explicit instruction to help students grasp these concepts and put them into practice. They state that explicit instruction in and supported development of self-regulation throughout all stages to include goal setting, self-assessment, self-instruction, self-reinforcement, imagery, and managing is important in the learning environment. So they have 6 stages, and I'm going to go through the 6 stages to help us to think about how we teach these learning strategies. The first stage is develop background knowledge. In this stage, the teacher helps the students develop background knowledge by determining the skills needed to learn the academic strategy, assess whether the students have these skills, and then help the students develop any necessary skill to learn the academic strategy and the self-regulation strategy. I recommend making an anchor chart for each of the learning strategies. This slide shows a resource from Engage New York, and they talk about the purpose of anchor charts, how to build them, and how to make quality anchor charts. Now, they recommend making the anchor chart with the students, and I'd like to add on to that as preparing what you want on the anchor chart prior to making it with the class. So that way you can guide the conversation to make the anchor chart useful and get in the steps that you've already laid out. During stage 2, there's discussion about the learning strategy. Whatever strategy you've chosen to teach your students and that you want to see them utilizing in the classroom, you need to help them understand how it can help them determine when and how to use it, and reinforce the importance of working hard, staying committed, and making positive comments to themselves about how they're walking through the learning process. Help them realize the other opportunities that exist for using this strategy, not just with the academic skills, but maybe in real life problem solving. Tell the students about self monitoring and how you expect them to measure it. The third stage is modeling. Modeling is done by verbalizing your thought process out loud to demonstrate the strategy. So we want to tell the students our thoughts as we're utilizing the learning strategy we've chosen to share with them. In addition to doing the modeling, the steps of the academic strategy and the teacher's thought process must also be a part of this stage. Helping students counter negative comments by developing their own positive self talk examples to counter the negative thoughts that they may come across while doing an activity or as they're going about learning a particular standard or skill. If a student struggles with the lack of motivation, it's important for us as teachers to help the student to respond to their own tendency toward negativity with positive comments as we model. So we want to take the learner through the thinking process. What am I being asked to do? What strategies do I know that can help me? What do I need to do first? Am I using all my strategy steps? Have I checked my work? Have I met all my goals? We need to walk through the steps of the strategy consistently every time we model it. And then we need to talk about why the steps are necessary. Stage 4 is memorizing it. After frequent practice and modeling, in stage 4, the teacher ensures the students are secure in the steps of the strategy. We want them to commit the actions to memory so that when they're using it, they know exactly how to use it because they've memorized it. While the students should have mastered the steps in the strategy, it is not vital for them to memorize the exact words in the steps. Rather, the meaning doesn't change if they put it in their own words. Students can use whatever words they like to help them make the steps their own. We should, as teachers, scaffold assistance when necessary by instructing students in the use of cue cards or other tools such as the anchor chart we talked about earlier. In stage 5, we still have the same thinking processes as stage 4 and stage 3. But in stage 5, this is the time for us as teachers to support the students by working with them to choose the strategy and at the same time instruct the students in using the thinking processes. This can be done in small group practice, which you'll see in my video, practice with a peer, and one-on-one instruction. So now we're walking them through the steps of how to use the strategy, whichever one we've chosen to teach them. Lastly, we establish independent practice. During this stage, we monitor and support the students' correct use of the strategy and the skill to ensure they are ready to use them on their own. There may be some small changes that we need to make based on what we see, but essentially, after all the stages 1 through 5, they should have a firm grasp on how to use this learning strategy during their learning process. The teacher should incorporate continued opportunities for the students to use this strategy in future lessons. Now, they can use the strategy that you've taught this determined is important at this time, or it could be one that you've already taught earlier in the year. As we go throughout the year, we should be building their repertoire of learning strategies. These are references where I got this information. Again, Really, the SRSD website that's listed here is where I got the different stages and articulated them. So if you had a hard time understanding what I was saying, you can go through and read those different stages at that website.